Paper Mario is home to some of the best and not best games Nintendo has ever made. The combination of humor, great storytelling, and world building is something that's going to be in every single game in this series. Some of these titles are incredible, and some of them folded under the pressure.
Throw the whole guy away.
Overall, are these games any good? It all started with Paper Mario, which released in North America on February 5th, 2001, in Japan on August 11th, 2001, and in Europe and in Australia on October 5th, 2001. This is the first title that made us all say,
"Oh my god, what did you do to my son?"
This was the first true Mario RPG since the release of Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo. They originally planned this game to be a sequel to Mario RPG, but instead of sharing the party with Square Enix, Nintendo wanted the Mustache Man all to himself. Now this game's got it all. Stepping on animals, collecting coins, and neglecting Luigi, all while we got a new spin on a classic Mario adventure. It's the original Mario story, with some tweaks to make it work as an RPG. Princess Peach gets kidnapped.
Who would have guessed?
And Bowser uses the Star Rod to make himself invincible. In order to beat Bowser, Mario has to go collect the 7 Star Spirits from Bowser's minions across the Mushroom Kingdom and beyond. All Mario RPGs are known to have you go across the world and collect 6 or 7 different items, and this series is no different. After you collect them all, you use them to defeat Bowser and save the day. It's a classic Mario saves Peach story, but with an RPG twist. Yeah, they're not trying to make the next Citizen Kane, they're just trying to make a simple RPG, and I think that's its major selling point. It was really like a proof of concept for the series. There was just enough paper-filled humor to make a little bit of sense, but as a game where Mario is made out of paper, how much sense does it need to make?
You're telling me this man right here is made of paper? Preposterous.
What really made it great was the turn-based combat, the platforming, and the cast of characters that you meet along the way. Even the toads that you pass have so much personality. Except for this one, what the heck is that haircut? You met characters like Goombario, who's a walking encyclopedia with a name that makes me want to punch a wall. Cooper the Koopa, who looks like he has PTSD, and Bombette, a walking explosive device. All are partners that you can meet along the way. They help you on your journey to save Peach, but even more than that, they build upon what's great about this series. Personality-wise, the characters are great, but the characters don't level up alongside you during the game, so all of them kind of have a static playstyle throughout the journey. Having characters level up with you is something great because you get to see them grow alongside you. Overall, the game was definitely a little slow at times where some chapters felt like they dragged on for years. But for what it was, Paper Mario set the bar for what could be a great RPG series with unique Nintendo flavor. The battle system set the standard for the early entries in the series and later the Mario and Luigi games. And it really had it all. The classic Mario platforming mixed with RPG elements that had real-time button presses to keep people engaged was a perfect combination. Paper Mario gave us a reason to slow down and enjoy the Mushroom Kingdom instead of flying through it while crushing whatever is in your path. It proved that Mario in a paper world just works, and it has a load of charm with things that don't make sense but do because the world is made of paper. You're telling me that Bowser was able to get this giant flight machine underneath Peach's castle and nobody knew about it? Things like this just work because the game doesn't take itself too seriously. As the first entry in the series, it really set the rest of the games up for a great start. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door released on October 11th, 2004 in North America, July 22nd, 2004 in Japan, November 12th, 2004 in Europe, and November 18th, 2004 in Australia. The Thousand-Year Door is looked at as the best game in the entire series. It's the game that really made these games stand out, and for good reason. It's like the Ocarina of Time of the Paper Mario series, the Holy Grail. If you say the word Thousand-Year Door in front of a Paper Mario fan, they'll stalk you for a month.
Did someone say Thousand-Year Door in here? I just love these things so much.
This time, the story takes place in a town called Rogueport, a place full of criminals, degenerates, and a lady who cannot keep a contact lens inside of her eye to save her life. Mario got sent here because Princess Peach got kidnapped. She sent Mario a magic treasure map that leads him on a quest to find the 7 crystal stars. Your goal is to use these stars to open the Thousand-Year Door. As any rational person would do, the bad guys want to unleash whatever's behind that door. Mario, of course, has to stop them. While collecting the crystal stars, you meet some of the best characters in the entire franchise and unravel the dark secrets of Rogueport. This game has enough layers to give an onion a run for its money, I swear. What really sets Thousand-Year Door apart, though, is the evolution from the battle system from 64 to now. To this day, this game has aged incredibly. It took the turn-based battle system from 64 and made it better in every single way. You've got the real-time elements that made the first game so great, but now you do it in front of a live studio audience complete with cheering fans, hecklers, and the occasional hammer being thrown at you. The audience plays a huge role in battles. If you pull off enough stylish moves, the crowd goes wild and boosts your star power so you can use even more powerful special moves. But if you screw up too many times, they might throw something at you. It incentivizes you to pay close attention to your battles and to learn the mechanics. The better you play, the more powerful you are. Alongside you, you get a side cast of characters that are the best in the series by a landslide. Unlike the first game, they actually level up, so it feels more engaging to use your partners, and they're all full of personality. You've got Goombella, another know-it-all Goomba, Koops, a Koopa with anxiety, and my personal favorite, the mini Yoshi that you get to name.
What do you want to be named, little guy?
Bolthor, the destroyer of worlds.
Alright, how about Clyde?
It wasn't your typical Bowser steals Peach and Mario has to save the day kind of story. Of course, you still have to save Peach, but there's other villains that you meet along the way that are just as good as Bowser would have been. Rogueport is full of shady characters, mysteries, and just overall moral ambiguity. Each chapter brings Mario to extremely different locations that you get to explore, which keeps the story engaging all the way through. And not having Bowser as the main villain is a good change of pace. You had Lord Crump from the Exonauts, who's built like a hard-boiled egg, the three Shadows, who are all interesting in their own way, one of which becomes another great ally, and of course, whatever is sealed behind the 1,000-year door. Bowser is still in this game, but he spends the entire game being a hilarious side character trying to play catch-up to Mario and absolutely blowing it. You do get to fight Bowser, which is nice, but it's weird to see how much he's changed from 64 to now. In 64, he's calculated and menacing, but in 1,000-Year Door, he's kind of an idiot. It makes sense because he's more of a cameo appearance instead of a main character, but it's just weird to see. Even though 1,000-Year Door is looked at as the cream of the crop, there are a few things that I still have problems with. The amount of backtracking in this game is wild. Mario has to have calves of steel from all of the walking and jumping he's been doing. Some of the later chapters, especially the one in Boggly Woods, feel like they dragged on forever. I can't say it's really a problem because of how good this game is, but I would rather have all of the chapters be somewhat equal in length. And don't get me started on the pit of 100 trials. If I go bald by 30, I'm blaming this as the reason. If you have the patience to deal with it, that's great, but it gives me chest pain. If you haven't played 1,000-Year Door, please do it. It recently got ported to the Switch and is just as good as ever. It added quality of life changes that make it even more accessible than it used to be. Seeing this game in stunning HD is something that I've always wanted. If you're looking for a great game, this is the one I recommend. Super Paper Mario released on April 9th, 2007 in North America, April 19th, 2007 in Japan, September 14th, 2007 in Europe, and September 20th, 2007 in Australia. This is where the series starts to get interesting. In a move that no one saw coming, Nintendo decided to scrap the turn-based combat entirely and give us a variation on a platformer. You heard me right, Super Paper Mario is not a turn-based RPG. It's like they were listening to the complaints of people who didn't want to play an RPG game and said, you know what, you got a point here, and threw the whole idea of the series away. It replaced the turn-based battles with real-time platforming and combat. You can jump on enemies to deal damage to them that way, or there's some other ways to do it as well. Unlike other games in the series though, you can switch between a 2D view and a 3D view to solve puzzles. It's more of a traditional Mario experience with a dusting of RPG elements sprinkled in. The one thing though this game did not change was the story. I might be biased, but this game has one of the best stories in the entire series. Count Bleck wants to destroy the entire multiverse using something called a Chaos Heart. Mario has to team up with a bunch of familiar characters like Luigi, Peach, and even Bowser to stop Count Bleck. This means you get to see Paper Luigi in action, which immediately makes this one of the best video games ever made.
Who needs Ocarina of Time when I've got this?
The story is dark, like way darker than any Mario game has the right to be. A story does not need to be dark in order to be good, but this does both really well. Bleck isn't just evil for the sake of being evil. His motivation for destroying the universe comes from a tragic love story. The game shifts from quirky and funny to downright heart-wrenching really quickly. We get to see Mr. L, who's Luigi after he gets brainwashed to become a villain, which is as hilarious as it is sad. And overall, the emotional depth was great for the series, and the fact that the game wasn't afraid to tackle some heavy themes made it even more great. And even though it was a huge departure from the originals, the platforming in this game was pretty innovative. Flipping from 2D to 3D allowed for some really creative puzzles, and it kept the gameplay really fresh. Now, this is not to say the gameplay is better. In many ways, it's far from it. I don't know how they took an RPG series and just removed 90% of the RPG elements. That's like taking a cheeseburger and taking away the cheese and still calling it a cheeseburger.
What happened to the cheese, Mr. Funny Man?
And you can't forget the text boxes. The dialogue in this game is just as good as ever, but it is some of the slowest text in gaming history. You would start a conversation with a character, and by the time it was over, you would have aged 40 years. But overall, even though this game started the downfall of the series and is pretty divisive, I can't say it's bad. If this game had kept the turn-based combat of the originals and expanded on it, I bet it would have given Thousand Year Door a run for its money. But as it is, it's a decent game. Paper Mario Sticker Star released on November 11th, 2012 in North America, December 6th, 2012 in Japan, December 7th, 2012 in Europe, and December 8th, 2012 in Australia. This is where things took a turn, a sharp, confusing, sticker-filled turn that makes my chest hurt. This game came out for the 3DS, which was a great idea to bring the Paper Mario series on the go. The Mario and Luigi games have been on portable consoles from their inception, and they're all great. So to get a Paper Mario game on the go felt like it would work perfectly. And after Super Paper Mario decided to stray away from the turn-based combat, and fans were begging for them to return to a normal form, instead, what we got was this. In Sticker Star, everything you do revolves around collecting and using stickers. I'm not sure who was in charge of approving this idea, but they deserve the good old French treatment. The plot of Sticker Star was about as basic as it gets. Bowser crashes a sticker fest and steals the royal stickers, causing absolute chaos. Mario's job is to collect 6 royal stickers and save the day.
Not 7 this time? What are we, rationing?
The real kicker here is the combat system. Every single action from jumping to hammering enemies requires a sticker. And once you use it, it's gone. They're all single use. So if you run out of stickers, you're screwed. The game essentially becomes a glorified scavenger hunt where you're constantly collecting stickers just to perform basic actions. It's a decent idea in theory, but in practice, it's about as fun as wearing wet socks. You couldn't just battle enemies for fun or even experience, you needed stickers for everything. And once you ran out, you had to go search for more. It made the combat feel less strategic and more like inventory management. Even worse, they got rid of the entire experience point system. No leveling up, no character progression, just stickers. You could still increase your stats by finding buffs around the map like the +5 HP hearts, but not being rewarded for the combat makes you want to avoid it at all costs. The game was definitely bad, but it wasn't horrible. The game's art style was still a continuation of the charming paper aesthetic that we all loved. The 3D effect on the 3DS was also used decently, and there were some fun environmental puzzles that you could do. And all of the classic Paper Mario charm and humor were still on point. But the game itself just feels weird. You would think they would hear the complaints of the community and go back to the classic RPG elements that made this series as good as it was. It feels like they lost sight of what made the first 2 Paper Mario games great. The RPG mechanics were stripped away almost entirely with no partners, no badges, and no real progression, just stickers.
Who needs a good game when you got stickers?
Needless to say, Sticker Star was a divisive game. Some people loved the simplicity and the creativity of stickers, but longtime fans of the games were left scratching their heads and wondering what happened to the RPG series we know and love. Paper Mario Color Splash released on October 7th, 2016 in North America and Europe, October 13th, 2016 in Japan, and October 8th, 2016 in Australia. In Color Splash, stickers were replaced by paint. Mario now wielded the new paint hammer to restore color to the world, and this game was about painting.
How does this keep happening?
This game is visually stunning, but the gameplay was not what fans were hoping for, but at least it was a step in the right direction. The story here is as basic as ever. Mario gets a letter from Peach that's actually just a toad that's drained of color and stuffed in an envelope. They set off to Prism Island where Bowser has drained the island of color, and Mario has to use his new paint hammer to restore color to the world by collecting 6 big paint stars.
I swear, Nintendo, what is happening?
The battle system was similar to Sticker Star, but instead of stickers, you used cards. You collected cards, filled them with paint, and then used them to attack. Once again, no experience points, no leveling up, just paint. You can increase the paint hammer's capacity by leveling that up, but Mario himself does not level like in the other games. Similar to Sticker Star, the combat was kind of shallow, and I found myself avoiding combat if necessary. You would battle enemies not because you wanted to, but because you had to. But at least this time around, the gameplay is more engaging. Paint works better as a gimmick than stickers did. But the thing that Color Splash absolutely nailed was the visuals. This game was beautiful. The paper and paint aesthetics were more vibrant than ever, and the environments were creative and fun to explore. The humor and writing were still incredible, and Color Splash had plenty of witty dialogue and quirky characters to make the game feel engaging. Huey is your partner for this game, and he's a talking paint bucket.
Oh, what is even that?
He is nowhere near as good as the charismatic partners of the past, but he did a good job. The game had other memorable characters too, like the Toad Rescue Squad, which were essentially Power Ranger Toads. But as much as this game's charm and humor hit the mark, it didn't quite make up for the lack of depth the game suffered from. The card-based combat was really shallow, and a lack of RPG mechanics left me feeling unsatisfied and often angry that Nintendo forgot how to make a game that works. Just like Sticker Star, the battles felt like a chore more than a rewarding experience, and the paint mechanic, while creative, didn't do enough to keep gameplay that interesting. And like in some other titles, there was so much backtracking. If you ran out of paint or didn't have the right card for a puzzle or boss fight, you'd have to backtrack and find more. It really slowed down the pace of the game, especially the first time around. I rarely ran out of paint in this game, but when I did, it was frustrating. I won't sit here and say this game is bad, because it really isn't, and overall, the game feels like it's halfway to being great. But some design choices make it feel like they were just making it to get a Paper Mario on the Wii U. Paper Mario: The Origami King released on July 17th, 2020 worldwide. One fine spring morning, checking Twitter, I saw they announced a new Paper Mario game. That's how they did it, they tweeted it out.
Oh my god. The McRib is back!
After the mixed reception from Sticker Star and Color Splash, nobody knew what to expect from this one. And what did Nintendo give us? A game about origami. Yep, this time the Mushroom Kingdom is under threat of King Ali, the Origami King, who's trying to fold the entire world. The story is pretty wild and overall great. King Ali wants to fold everything in sight, and his sister Olivia teams up with Mario to stop him. Along the way, you unfold the mysteries of this paper origami hybrid world. That joke was awful. Be fine about it. The biggest change here, though, is the battle system. Instead of the traditional turn-based combat that everyone had been saying they wanted back for over a decade, Origami King introduced a ring-based puzzle system. In each battle, you have to line up enemies in a circular grid before you can attack. At first, this is a cool concept, but after a while, it starts feeling more like a puzzle game than an RPG. The battles are less about strategy and more about finding out the right way to solve the puzzle. I don't really mind this, to be honest, but considering how everyone in the world had been waiting for a return to the traditional RPG mechanics for so long, this feels morally incorrect. This was a really divisive split. Some people loved the fresh take on combat, finding the puzzle mechanic to be fun and a good change of pace overall. And others thought this was a tragedy on par with the BP oil spill. I'll admit it, I didn't really mind it, at least for the first few hours. And then the novelty started to wear off, but don't worry, we'll get to that. One of the biggest strong points for this game, though, is the environments. The world is gorgeous. The world design, the level of detail, and the sheer creativity of taking the paper world and folding it made a game that was truly eye candy. You get to visit some beautiful locations, each with their own distinct theme and clever puzzles. Where the game started to lose me, though, was the bosses. Most of them were based on a different office supply.
Do you want to go?
Mario fights a giant hole punch, colored pencils, and tape. And that's where I really draw the line. The other games at least had some creative character designs, but the fact that I have to fight a giant ball of rubber bands and everyone seems okay with it makes me grind my gears. Olivia was your partner throughout the game and is easily one of the best companions in recent Paper Mario titles. Compared to older titles, she is lacking, but I'll take whatever I can get here. She's not just some tag-along character, she plays a huge role in both the gameplay and the story. Speaking of the story, in a franchise that's usually lighthearted with some exceptions, Origami King manages to sneak a surprising amount of emotional moments, especially as you get closer to the end. There's also Bobby, a Babam who joins you for a pretty significant portion of the game, and his story arc is unexpectedly moving. The game touches on themes of sacrifice, friendship, and even loss, which are topics you don't expect from a Mario game. The emotional storytelling and narrative complexity lets this compare to games like Thousand Year Door and Super Paper Mario. It felt like they listened to at least some capacity. Of course, this game had some problems. The ring-based combat system started out as interesting, but it ended up feeling so repetitive by the end, I tried to avoid any sort of engagement. You spend so much time solving the puzzle that the actual combat only takes a fraction of the time. And there's no real experience or leveling system, so the battles often feel unnecessary unless you're fighting a boss. And it still lacks the deeper RPG mechanics that made the earlier Paper Mario titles so great. Sure, you can upgrade and get different items, but it's not the same as gaining experience points, leveling up, and customizing Mario's stats. It feels more like an adventure puzzle game than an RPG, and for a series that started out as an RPG game, it's wild they refused to make another Paper Mario RPG. There is no denying that Paper Mario has changed a lot. Sometimes in ways that were great and others that make us want to grab a hole punch and put it through our Switch. But there's always the hope deep down that one day we'll be able to see the series return to its roots with all the depth, strategy, and emotional storytelling that made Thousand Year Door and others a classic. especially since they just remade Thousand Year Door for Switch, introducing a whole new era of fans to what Paper Mario is really about. Maybe Nintendo will surprise us, and maybe they won't, but one thing's for sure, Paper Mario series left a huge mark on gaming. It's given us unforgettable characters, innovative gameplay mechanics, and a story that ranges from utterly ridiculous to wildly deep. The games are all decent to great, and if you can pick up any of them, I'd say Thousand Year Door, but all of the others are worth your time if you like the series. These games will stick with us forever. Was that another sticker?
Get him! Get him! Rip him in half!
And as always, thank you for watching. I hope that you and your family have an incredible rest of your day, and if you like anything that you saw here, please consider subscribing.